Acadiana, Meteorologist Dave Baker here on a Wednesday afternoon. Hot, a little bit drier in some cases, but we've still got a few spotty showers that have been going on. Had some heavy downpours up over Cenla earlier today. Had one thunderstorm that really just kind of hung over the same area in parts of eastern Rapides Parish, picking up a little over 3 inches of rain according to our radar estimates. So there are still a few spotty showers, but after this little wave kind of goes by, I think we're going to get that drier air to hold for Thursday and part of Friday, and then things are going to start to get a little bit more humid. But this time of the year, we'll take anything we can get when it comes to any kind of relief from the summer's heat. Outside, we've got partly cloudy skies right now. Our temperature holding at 88 degrees. Feels more like 94. The dew point not bad, though, at 71. This time of the year, that dew point can be 75, 77, 78. And you can see heat index values 105 to 110. So very, very, actually pretty nice by Louisiana standards here with that heat index only at about 94 degrees. There is the latest on the local radar. And again, we've got some spotty showers. Earlier today had some big stuff up here over parts of Cenla. Right about in that area, we did have quite a bit of heavy rain that came down. We've got some spotty showers that are coming through back over parts of Vernon Parish over around Fort Polk. And that's going to continue to push off toward the southeast. Got a few showers there along the 165 corridor there between Kinder and Oberlin, and also south of Highway 90 and I-10 there in Acadia Parish, south of Crowley. That's going to be heading into northern parts of Vermilion. And don't be surprised if you see a few sprinkles on your windshield over southern Lafayette, Vermilion, and even into St. Martin and Iberia parishes here a little bit later on. All of that is going to be moving on by, and we should be in better shape a little bit later on. I know we were kind of promising to be rain-free, but I'm really glad this morning that I went ahead and kept that 20% there in the forecast. But most of that rain is going to stay in the offshore waters this time around. So far, it doesn't look like it's really impacting travel too much. If you are driving, you'll be in and out of any of these little showers pretty quickly. So just brief, you'll have a little bit of rain hitting your windshield. I caught a shower yesterday. I was on my way over to New Orleans, but I took the old route south on Highway 90 back. I had a little rain over around Houma yesterday afternoon. So those spotty showers are still going to be out there. There's going to be a series of disturbances, and let me apologize in advance. I was working all day using ChatGPT, trying to change codes and things to try to get this telestrator to work, but it is still inoperable as of right now. So not going to be able to draw on the screen too well, so you're going to kind of have to follow along with me, but I'm going to try to work on it a little bit more tomorrow. That's why I'm always hesitant to upgrade to the latest version of any program. It always seems whenever I do that I end up finding a downgrade rather than an upgrade on there, and that's exactly what happened with this particular case with the program that I'm using to bring you Let's Talk Tropics. But we still can get our webcams. We're in good shape there. Beautiful day at Panama City Beach. Boy, I'll tell you, I'd like to walk right into that picture and just kind of hang out there for a while. Good looking day at Orange Beach, as well as we take a little tour of the northern Gulf Coast, Dauphin Island, one of my favorite places in the whole wide world. Looking gorgeous there today. And as we work our way westward to Cocodrie, this is looking southward. A beautiful sky there. And then it starts to get a little bit more humid as you work your way westward. So that's why we're seeing a bit more cloud cover in the sky as you work over into southeastern Texas. But there is a front that's still located out in the central part of the Gulf. And again, sorry that I can't telestrate that. But if you look along the East Coast and you follow that green southwestward toward Florida, and if you could make an imaginary line that kind of just goes west-southwest across the central Gulf, where some of those darker colors are, where the winds and the seas are going to be a little bit stronger, that's about where that front is. But our local waters might be affected by one or two spotty showers, but outside of that, winds are going to be out of the east today, about 5 to 10 knots, seas 2 to 3 feet. So really a decent boating day out there on the Gulf waters as well as our area lakes and bays. And you can see that the skies are relatively clear there right along the coast. You see the spotty showers coming through with that little weak disturbance. It's going to kind of rotate around the bottom of a trough of low pressure in the upper levels that's been in control of our weather over the last couple of days. And of course, out in the middle part of the Gulf, probably you can pick up where that front is. It's where the thunderstorms are, stretching west of Florida to about due south of Grand Isle. But at this point, with that frontal boundary out there, there's nothing tropical in nature developing. Occasionally, you can get a low to develop on that, and there are some of the ensemble models that are kind of picking up on something maybe stirring up over the west coast of Florida, then cruising over into the Atlantic. We'll get into some of those ensemble models here a little bit later in the show. A tropical wave did work westward across Central America. Still some showers there over Costa Rica and southern parts of Nicaragua. Rest of the Caribbean really doesn't have too many issues. Fair weather clouds moving by. A tropical wave came through the Windward and Leeward Islands yesterday. It's maybe about halfway between the Dominican Republic the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, and then southward to the northern coast of Venezuela. So that's going to go ahead and continue to move to the west. Got another tropical wave that's going to affect the southern Windward Islands and Trinidad and Tobago sometime tomorrow. And then our tropical wave that's been making some noise in the National Hurricane Center 7-day outlook is a little bit farther to the east. So just kind of get an idea. There's that wave. Since I don't have the telestrator, there's that wave over Central America. The other one that's going to kind of work toward the Windward Islands by tomorrow. And then a 70% chance that the wave over the central eastern part of the Atlantic is going to develop into our next tropical system. And then there are a couple of other areas that we'll watch that will roll off the coast of Africa. I did not highlight the front off the east coast that stretches down into the Gulf waters, but again, that might be a suspect area if those conditions persist here. So as far as the National Hurricane Center 7-day outlook, about a 70% chance that tropical wave southwest of the Cape Verde Islands will develop. And we really think, at least looking at the models too, that this likely will become our next named storm. And if you look there on the left-hand side, the next name on the list is Gabrielle. So here's some of the ensemble suites. And again, if you look there where that tropical wave is, let me kind of go back and forth here. See, there's where the X is. So kind of focus your eyes on that part of the Atlantic. And you see a number of solutions there. But the general consensus is that this will drift westward, and several of the models are turning it more northwestward around a big ridge of high pressure that's out there over the far northeastern part of the Atlantic. Now, there are a few solutions that take it to the northern Leeward Islands, Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. But most of them do take a turn. And then I'll also direct your attention there to the East Coast. You see that a few of those L's there? Those are some origin points where low pressure could develop. Doesn't mean it's going to be anything tropical, but with that frontal boundary that stretches along the East Coast and then across the Gulf waters as well, occasionally you can get a little low pressure area. But this is really not showing anything that's too exciting there. So the GFS version of or the American version of the ensembles. Again, it's the same model, it's the same calculations. They just tweak a little bit for the what ifs. So most of the ensemble models are pretty hot with developing this system and moving it over the Atlantic. But as you see, this is a little bit more of a northward trend compared to what the Euro was showing. So this one actually keeps the islands pretty safe, rounds this around a ridge of high pressure, and then kind of gets caught up in a trough that's going to be coming off the east coast of the U.S. So as long as that upper trough stays over the eastern half of the U.S., I think we're going to be in pretty good shape. So let's go through the deterministic models here. Again, these models that I'm showing you here, these ensembles, if you're new to Let's Talk Tropics, basically what this is it's not just showing one solution like these other ones that I'm going to show you here. This is using the same, let's say, mathematical calculations. There's just a little tweak here and there in different positions in that equation to kind of give you an idea of some what ifs. So not only is it going to give you that one solution that it thinks that any tropical system is going to do, but it's going to give you a whole bunch of different variations of what ifs, and it kind of gives you a better idea. And if all of those ensemble models are laying on top of each other, then you have very high confidence. If they're spread out all over the place, then your forecast has some low confidence. So what this one does, and this is the Euro model, this is probably more of the stuff that you're familiar with, that you see in different blogs and you see on television as well. This is one of those that just kind of shows one solution. So I don't have the telestrator, but hopefully you can see where I'm kind of circling. I know the cursor's probably not there, but if you see that little box kind of spin. So this is where we want to focus our attention. And we're looking at the European model on this one. So let's just go ahead and forward this over time. And one of the things about this particular tropical wave that's out in the middle part of the Atlantic is it's really going to be moving slowly. So on this particular model, we're already to the upcoming weekend here, and you can see that it's about, 3/4 of the way across the Atlantic, and we are going out here even farther. Looks like we're out to about hour, 168 here. So we're about next Wednesday. This is next Thursday, and the Euro takes this low pretty close to the Virgin Islands. So a little over a week from now, we may have something moving in that direction. But then there's a little bit of a trough over the East Coast, and either that's going to dissipate according to the Euro, or it's going to be absorbed by that trough and then kind of lift off toward the northeast. But at least for the Euro does not take this into the Gulf. Now, the remnant energy kind of gets up there toward the East Coast. But again, we're out in La La Land here. We're way out. So if we only just go out the full, let's say 10-day forecast, again, my eyes aren't working too good on this particular one, but I think that's 10 days right there. So that puts the system kind of close to the areas there of the northern Virgin Islands. So we'll go ahead and rewind this. Let's get into the GFS this time around. And again, we're going to focus our attention. Hopefully you can see this at home, that little rectangle with the coordinates there kind of swirling around. So that's where I want to focus our attention. This is actually yesterday, so let's advance this to today. So this is where we're looking right here. So we'll just go ahead and forward this again. We'll go out. Now we're out to Sunday. This is Monday. And now we're up to about Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So again, remember how I said that this wave is going to take a long time. It's not racing across the Atlantic like Aaron did several weeks ago, and even Fernand kind of was racing across the Atlantic Ocean. So this one's moving a little bit slower, so we've got a lot of time to watch it. But the GFS, kind of like you saw in the ensemble models, has something starting to make its way a little bit around that ridge of high pressure. And if we can catch a trough, now this latest model does seem to want to take it very close to the East Coast. But again, we are out at hour 342. So let me go back just to the 10-day period, which is right about here. So this is kind of what we would really rather focus on, because beyond 7 days is kind of La La Land, and beyond 10 days is definitely out there in imaginary land. So again, I think over the next 10 days, this is going to be a developing system, and it's going to be pretty close to the Virgin Islands. So hopefully this will turn northward, and then if we can get a trough to come off the east coast of the U.S. to pick this up and turn it off toward the northeast around that ridge of high pressure, that would be the best case scenario. But we'll keep watching the GFS, and it's going to flip-flop over the next several days. This is not the forecast cemented in just yet. Canadian model, let's just kind of take a little peek and see what's going on there. There's your low pressure area again. Hopefully you can see where I'm circling here, down in the middle part of the Atlantic Ocean. So let's just advance this forward. And the Canadian model does seem to be doing some development, and it kind of follows the same path as what the GFS is doing. It is a little bit faster though, because there's your 240-hour solution there, 10 days out. But there is a little bit of a trough right here, so maybe that can get picked up and pulled away. Let's hope the east coast of the U.S. and or the Gulf is going to be spared from this. So right now we don't have a forecast that goes out far enough that would be able to be trusted, that where we can make a determination whether it's going to be coming toward the East Coast or toward the Gulf. So this is the reason why you still need to have your guard up during this time of the year. It is the peak of the hurricane season, and I know that the waters have been very, very quiet, especially here locally along the Gulf Coast, and I know that y'all have gotten used to having so many different systems by the time we reach the early part of September. And for several years, most of us here along the Gulf Coast have been, just hurricane worn out by the time we get to the Labor Day weekend. That has not happened this year. And that's part of the worry that I have, where folks are going to start to say, oh, we've already made it to September, we're not going to have anything. But that's not the case. We really need to be watching out here along the northern Gulf Coast all the way through the month of October. And we learned that lesson back in 2024. So the low continues to move off toward the west according to the Icon model. Now, the Icon doesn't go out as far. The icon is usually a little bit aggressive on developing tropical systems. So you can see this, that's a hurricane there, according to this model. But the GFS, rather the icon model only goes out 7 days. So we can't quite see as far out in the future. But I would say that there's some general agreement between the four global models that this will become our next tropical system. Now, it is going to be traveling over some warmer waters. So not only is it going to slowly move its way west, but it's not really going to tap into the superheated water until maybe day 5 or 6 as it gets a little bit closer to the Windward and Leeward Islands, and the water temperatures pretty much in its path are all above normal. We still have a little bit of a cool eddy that's left over from Hurricane Aaron from a couple of weeks ago off the East Coast that might inhibit it if it moves into that particular area. But outside of that, I don't think we're going to, it's still going to be running over at least relatively warm waters and might have a chance for some extra development due to that. Now, the tropical cyclone heat potential, as I've been saying all summer long, really the worries are the Western Caribbean and the areas there south of Florida and the southeastern part of the Gulf. So far, so good. We haven't had any tropical systems come in this local area so far this hurricane season, because if it would have tapped into some of that high heat content and we could have seen some rapid intensification. That doesn't mean that that isn't going to happen still over the course of the hurricane season. If right there over Central America, and again, I said this yesterday, I do have a description in the below for this video about the Central American gyre. It's a kind of like the Bermuda High. It's kind of a permanent solution during the early part of the hurricane season and then the latter part of the hurricane season. And so it's not really there right now, but it does start to reappear toward the end of September. And that's a little bit more of a threat for us because what it can do is it can get a tropical system to start developing there, maybe like east of Nicaragua or north of Honduras, where that tropical cyclone heat potential is at its highest, and it's also where the warmest water temperatures are. And anything that develops there in the Western Caribbean or near the Yucatan Channel is always a threat to the Acadiana region. So that's part of the reason why you don't want to let your guard down, because sometimes a system can develop a little bit closer to home and you don't have as much time to prepare, especially if these things ramp up from a tropical depression to maybe a Category 2, Category 3 hurricane in just a couple of days. The inhibiting factors are the Saharan dust, which usually backs off quite a bit about this time of the year, or at least lifts to the north. So in the tropical path, or that alley of where we see most of our tropical systems come off the African coast, the Saharan dust is kind of retreated a little bit farther to the north. And also the wind shear does tend to taper off a bit as we head into September. So that's why we have tropical systems that are able to develop a little bit earlier, and that's why we have a larger number of tropical systems once we get into September. Global Tropics Hazard Outlook shows us week 2 and week 3. Just real quick, there is your week 1 from the National Hurricane Center. And this top graphic is week 2, which it is highlighting something there, at least a low-end chance for something moving into either the southern Gulf or that western part of the Caribbean. Is that this disturbance we're watching? According to the GFS, which is trying to take more of a westerly track, rather the Euro is trying to take more of a westerly track while the GFS is kind of turning north. Might be tapping into that, but I'll say there, it's less than 20%, so you don't get too excited about that. But in week 3, you see that darker red shade there in the middle. That just might be an indication of some normal type of September tropical weather, because usually 3rd, 4th week of September, you've got some action out there in the middle part of the Atlantic. That would not be that unusual. I do want to remind you, Colorado State still is holding on with their forecast. This is the August forecast, and they've been calling for 16 named storms. The norm is 14, and we have 6 under our belt. We'll probably have 7 before the week is over. But during the month of September, we usually have about 4 named storms on average, and about 2 or 3 in October, and usually 1 or 2 in November. So if we just go with the normal season, with those numbers for September, October, November, we probably would end up with about 14 to 15 named named storms, which would be right in the ballpark of Colorado State University's forecast. And that's part of the reason why I say don't let your guard down just yet. And then the August update from NOAA was still keeping the named storm range 13 to 18. I think that's going to be a good bet. I think we'll probably hit that pretty easily. And they're still calling for a 50% chance that the season is going to come to end up above normal. So that would be more than 16 named storms. And by the way, September the 10th is the peak of the hurricane season. So this is always the busiest time. We're just very lucky this year that we're only watching a tropical wave. But please, do not let your guard down. Make sure you have the supplies that you need, that you can get right now. And of course, I'll give you more information on how to prepare maybe 7 days out or 3 days out if we're in the crosshairs or we start to get into that cone of any tropical system. So again, do not let your guard down just yet. We still have a long way to go for hurricane season, but we always want to keep our fingers crossed that everything's going to stay away. And boy, if we can just keep everything out over the waters like we have so far for the hurricane season, what a great hurricane season this would be. Well, I hope you enjoyed Let's Talk Tropics. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also turn on those notifications. Don't forget, you can hear my forecast daily on Big 102.1, Planet Radio 106.7, and Freedom 95.1. And I've also joined the team at WBRZ Channel 2 over in Baton Rouge. You can catch me on weekend mornings for the most part. We have a 10 o'clock show on Saturday, a 9 o'clock show in the morning on Sunday, and then I'll be with the early folks on Mondays and occasional Tuesdays there. So you can tune in 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock at WBRZ.com if you don't have Channel 2 on your cable system. Also, please follow my social media pages, both on Facebook and X, and thanks to everyone who's already subscribed to Acadiana Weather Today right here on YouTube. I'm meteorologist Dave Baker. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Watch out for a few of those spotty showers, but let's look forward to some dry air and lots of sunshine on your Thursday. I'll see you tomorrow.